Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. No, I always wanted to say that publicly. No. So are you ready for a great night? It will be, and I want to say this before we get started. We need to vote, and we need to be involved, and we can't just talk about it and say nice things at church. We have to move forward and stand up for righteousness. With that, please welcome Pastor Bob Beckett.
Now, okay, where's the flag? Okay, we're going to use that. That's the flag. Okay, let's face this way. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
All right, and we're going to sing the National Anthem, so let's go ahead and stand on back up. All right. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, we're going to pray. You're down again. Okay, come on, back up. You're going to get your exercise tonight. Come on. There we go. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in a nation that's still the greatest nation on earth. We thank you for the privilege to be able to gather like this. And as long as we can, and long after they say we can't, we will continue to gather in your name, because there is no other name under heaven whereby we can be saved. That name is the name of Jesus. And all of God's people said? Amen. You may be seated. Thanks, Bob.
Well, good evening, everybody. How are you doing today? Good. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So my name is Chris Engel. I'm one of the founders and leaders of the Freedom Coalition. I'm also the pastor of Bible Fellowship Church here in town. And this is our 5th town hall meeting. So we are super excited that you are here tonight. We've got a great group of guests to introduce you to. We've already seen a couple. Ian Weeks, by the way, who just sang our national anthem, he's running for state assembly. Ian is a worship leader over at Community Christian Church in Hemet, and so make sure if you live in Ian's district, that you go out and vote for him, okay? And that was Pastor Bob Beckett. He's pastor of DP City Church, and so we're thrilled that he is here as well. And I just want to welcome you. How many of you have been to one of our town hall meetings before? Okay, quite a few of you, all right. How many of you have not been to a town hall meeting before? Wow, okay, there's quite a few of you. Well, welcome. We just want to say welcome. Thank you for being here. So I want to just tell you briefly about the Freedom Coalition, and then I want to talk about Riverside County for a second, okay? So the Freedom Coalition started back at the end of August of last year. And it happened because my wife and I were attending a school board meeting, and it was the first school board meeting that we'd ever attended, and we saw a lot of parents there who were energized, who were motivated to speak and to share their points of view and to advocate for their kids. And we were inspired, and we thought, wow, this is really inspiring. And we knew a lot of those that were speaking. They were friends of ours. Their kids went to school with our kids. And so after that meeting, we all came together and said, hey, why don't we join forces and form a coalition? And so that's how the Freedom Coalition of Hemet San Jacinto came together. We decided back at the end of August that we were going to try to pull off a town hall meeting before the recall election took place for Gavin Newsom. That gave us 2 weeks to pull together our first town hall meeting. And so we did, and it all came together. It was pretty amazing, and we've had several amazing ones since. And we're just excited about what is happening through our organization and what's taking place here in our valley and in the greater area of Riverside County, which I want to take a moment and talk to you about what is happening in Riverside County, okay? I never had any intentions of getting into sort of this arena of politics. It was never my idea to host town hall meetings or any of that stuff, okay? If you'd asked me a year ago, Chris, are you going to be on a stage interviewing political candidates? I would have said, what are you smoking? No, I'm not. Like, no, that's nowhere in the realm of my thinking. And so, but anyways, here I am. And listen, the reason why I think that I'm here is because there is something really special happening in Riverside County and in the greater nation of the United States. And it's happening everywhere, just like it is here. But I want to focus with you just for a minute on our county. Because I've lived here in Riverside County since 1995, okay? Moved here from Texas, from the great state of Texas, which, by the way, I don't know if you've heard this, but Riverside County is now being referred to as the Texas of California. And so, and for a lot of reasons, okay, which I want to point out some of those to you right now, okay? I've had an opportunity over the last 8-9 months to meet quite a few political leaders in our area, not just locally in our town, our city council members, school board members, but also in a greater sense at the county level. I had a chance to spend some time with Chad Bianco a couple months ago. He was here as one of our guests. And yeah, Chad is a wonderful person. He's the perfect man for the job for this time in the life of Riverside County and the life of our nation. And so some exciting things are happening there as well. But I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of people, and for whatever reason, I feel like God has given me this opportunity. And so I have been rubbing shoulders and talking and having conversations with people from all different places in Riverside County, from different communities, from Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, Hemet, San Jacinto, Beaumont, Riverside, Coachella Valley, all over the place. People have been coming out of the woodworks, and they call me on my cell phone now, and I'm like, how in the world does that happen? Like, hey, how you doing? Yeah. So anyways, it's been amazing. And I'm watching something incredible happen. In fact, it's easy for people to get discouraged because we're watching a wave crash over our nation right now. It is a wave that has taken decades to build, okay? And we're watching it crash over our heads currently. And we're feeling the weight of it, okay? And some people look at the state of our nation or the state of our state or our county here and they say, we're without hope. There's no hope for us. What are we going to do? You know, we're just going to move out of California, or we're just going to bury our heads and whatever. And some people are choosing to do that. Others are choosing to stay and fight. I'm one of those. I'm choosing to stay and fight. And And I want to tell you that there is another wave that is building right now. Listen, I need to tell you, it took decades for us to get to where we are now. It's going to take us some time to get out of this mess, okay? But there is another wave that is building right now. In fact, Charlie Kirk has come out recently and said, we're watching the death of the Democratic Party right before our eyes, okay? Look. And it's being evidenced all over our nation, okay? People are waking up, they're rising up, they're starting to see the truth and the reality of what's happening in our world. And it's not helping the left that we're currently seeing inflation at the rate that it is, and it's their fault, by the way. It's not helping them that our gas prices are where they are, that immigration is where it's at, that all these issues we're facing, that we're in an existential crisis right now globally on the edge of a nuclear war with a nuclear nation. It is unheard of. It's absurd that we're even saying those words, by the way, but it's the reality of where we live. I want to show you a website, okay, that I came across. In fact, one of my good friends showed me this. He's a real estate agent in the Menifee-Murrieta area, and they had a big meeting a few weeks back, and he said, Chris, I got to show you something that's incredible. This data that I want to show you is coming out of, it was put together by the IRS. So the Internal Revenue Service collects data based on wealth and where it's migrating in the United States, okay? Where is the wealth moving, all right? Where's the money moving? And this is not just real estate, by the way. Real estate's a part of this, but it has to do with small businesses. It has to do with just general income for different areas. This data was compiled and put together right before the pandemic, okay? So I want to suggest that, or actually people are telling me this, that the data, it's a little bit outdated. It's about 2 years old. But the trend that I'm going to show you is accelerating in all of these areas. And it's accelerating because of the policies and the rules and the response to COVID that we're seeing in the different areas within our nation. So this website is called Where Money Walks. You can go there and look it up yourself. You can pull up this interactive map, which is really cool. And you'll see this map has red and green and various shades of red and green. The red shows you the areas where the money is leaving. So if there's an area where they're reporting a negative adjusted gross income, it's red. If it's light red, it's less negative. If it's light green, it's more positive. If it's dark green, it's super positive. I want to show you 3 states. We're going to look at 3 here. The first is New York. So we're going to pop over here to New York. If we can change that slide to New York. There we go. Okay. So New York currently is this, like I said, this data is a little bit old, but New York, as of the end of 2019 into 2020, into the pandemic, New York was reporting an adjusted gross net loss of $129.11 billion with a B dollars. So I don't have time to go into all the data here, but you can do some deep dives on this website and see where the money's moving because they show you where it's going, all right? But I want to jump over to another state, Florida. Let's take a look at Florida. You see that red area down there in the southern part of Florida? That's Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County got a lot of attention during the last presidential election. It is a Democratic stronghold, and it is the only dark red area like that in Florida that has a major population area. But Florida is currently, or as of the most recent IRS data, reporting a net gain in adjusted gross income of $205 billion with a B dollars. Okay? This is all data that's coming out of the IRS. Let's take a look at our home state, California. California, here's it broken down by county, all right? California is currently reporting, or as of the most recent data, okay, an $82 billion net loss in adjusted gross income, okay? So overall, California is losing money. Where is it going? We don't have time to show you here, but you can go and look at yourself and see where it's moving. Let's look a little closer in California, at Southern California, and particularly Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County in 2019-2020 is reporting a $54.7 billion net loss in adjusted gross income. Los Angeles County. All right, now if you take a closer look at Southern California, you'll see here on that map, actually go back one slide to the one you were just on. You'll see on that map that most of the counties are red, except for Santa Barbara over there on the left. but all the counties around Riverside County are red, some lighter, some darker. They're all reporting net losses in adjusted gross income. The only county in Southern California that's reporting a net gain in adjusted gross income is Riverside County. Riverside County is a dark green, all right? Well, how much income is Riverside County reporting in net gains? Well, according to the IRS data, Riverside County is reporting nearly a $15 billion with a B net gain in adjusted gross income, while every single county around us is reporting a net loss. Think about this. I've had people come to me and say, Chris, what's happening in Riverside County? And I have so much to tell you. I can't say it all tonight. We could talk afterwards. But listen, this is my perspective as a pastor of a local church here in our valley. I think there is a firewall that's being created around Riverside County. Okay? And there is something very special happening in our county. And there are people rising up all over the county. And we're experiencing blessing for a reason. I can't explain all of the reasons why. I don't understand them all necessarily. But I will tell you that it's our response to COVID. It's the leadership that existed up to the point of COVID. It's all of the decisions that have been made. It's those who have moved to our county. And by the way, do you know where the greatest flux of income is coming into Riverside County? Los Angeles County. So Riverside County is reporting the greatest movement of income from Los Angeles County and Orange County than any other counties in California. People are moving here. Why? Because it's the desert? No. No. They're moving here because it's a better place to be, okay? For a lot of reasons, but there is something special happening in Riverside County. Listen, the future is bright. The wave is building right now, okay? There is a massive wave that is building. We aren't seeing the effects of it yet. Hold on, okay? It's going to be a few years. But hang on to your seats because we're about to see a wave like no other that is going to come crashing over our nation, okay? Listen, we're in the middle of a fight. This is a fight. It is not time to let up or give up or to stop, okay? We've got to keep pushing forward, all right? I've got some special people I want to introduce to you. We have a group called Lexit. We're going to watch a little video from them. Lexit stands for Latinos Exiting the Democratic Party. So let's watch their video, and I'm going to invite these guys to come on up.
Lexit is the Latino exit from the Democrat Party.
And not the one.
I'm not so much a Republican, I'm more of a conservative. But we're trying to get Latinos to wake up because most Latinos are conservative, they just don't know it. So we're just trying to wake them up, show them, because they once we start showing them the facts and truth, they see that they align more with conservatism. So that's what we're doing. We're just reaching out, reaching to Latinos, telling them to vote your godly moral values, to vote on the issue. Just everybody, we need just to come together and stand against this medical tyranny. It's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse, unfortunately. So we need to all come together. This is not about party. It's not about race. It's not about none of that. It's about freedom. So we just all need to come together. And Latinos, as always, remember, Latinos don't have to be Democrats.
I can start. You guys were Lexit. I'm Kari. I'm one of the Lexit IE chapter leaders. This is my partner here, Danny. And we're just here to wake up the Latino community. We don't have to be Democrats. What a lot of people don't know is that this is volunteer work. So I wanted to give our team a shout out because we have the fastest growing team in the country. And these are only some of our members. They devote hours and hours because of their passion for this and love for this country and their devotion to waking up Latinos. So thank you guys for the team. And I'm Kari. I'm Carrie for you non-Spanish speakers. I'm a Latina. I was born here in California to an immigrant here. She came here legally, a single mother, but I was also fortunate enough to be raised in Mexico. Because she was a single mother, she would send me to Mexico for my summers. And honestly, that was some of the best memories I have. Life was so different, but it was also hard. It was so hard. For example, I'm a mom now. My kids are right there. And my oldest, we went to visit a family, and they only had one restroom, right? He's like, Mom, they only have one bathroom. And I'm like, yo, when I went to your grandma's, we didn't even have indoor plumbing, okay? Like, first world problems. All right, so my time there helped me appreciate the opportunities we have here. And as I grew up, I became your typical Latina Democrat. I was manipulated and I was brainwashed. And luckily, I married an amazing man. He's over there. He's a Marine, and yeah. So, seeing the other side of this country, the sacrifices these men make, because it's not just my husband. We've made family in the military. I see the sacrifices they've made at war. They leave their families behind. What these men do, you guys have no idea. And we take that for granted. So I'm so thankful for my upbringing because it taught me to appreciate the opportunities of this country, but being married to this man helped me appreciate the sacrifices and understand why we have these opportunities there. And when I had my awakening moment and I was like, I'm gonna vote for Trump, the Latino community turned their back on me like crazy, you guys. And you feel so alone and you feel like you're wrong, like your whole ideas are wrong, but there was this dude on it with the beard on the internet, and this other guy in a wheelchair that met President Trump, and they were Latinos that had my values. And they made me feel not alone. They not only validated my values, but they made me feel like there's more of us, you know? So last year, 4th of July, my kids and these men gave me the bravery to sit up in front of a camera. 3 months later, they messaged me and they asked me to join. Of course, I wanted to be a part of this group, you know? They made me feel like I wasn't alone, and now we're doing that to Latinos. So what the Latino community needs to realize is that we are conservative by nature, our traditions, our values, our foundations. And what's so great about Lexit is that we're not gonna tell you, vote this party, vote that party. We're telling you, vote your conservative values. We came here for a reason because this country aligns with our values. So let's try to preserve both, not just our heritage with our conservative values, but also the foundations of this country. So.
So hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Cruz, and I'm one of the chapter leaders for Lexit's IE chapter. And I joined Lexit in October of 2021. Ever since then, it's just been an outstanding ride. First and foremost, Lexit is a Jesus-first organization. We are conservatives, not Republicans. There is a difference. So ever since then, my main mission with Lexit has been to grow the IE chapter and make it a big enough footprint here in the IE to where no matter what city any Latino is in, there's always going to be somebody from Lexit nearby to where they could reach out and say, I feel like I'm the only conservative here. I feel like I'm surrounded by a bunch of leftists, Satanists, abortionists. I just need somebody to reach out to. My main mission has been to grow Lexit throughout the Inland Empire to no matter what city you're in, there's going to be somebody from Lexit nearby that you can reach out to and have your back. So I want to give thanks to the Lord, first of all, because he is good. But I also want to thank very much my team because I only do so much. They do everything. So thank you guys. Mikey, raise your hand, Mike. Mike and his wife, Rachel, both joined not too long ago. They've been a blessing to our team. Ken and Melissa, absolute blessing. I don't have time. They're wonderful people. They've been to Washington, D.C. They've been to Sacramento, Arizona. You guys have been putting in so much work, and I thank the Lord for you guys for being on my team. You guys are a true blessing. Jackie, absolutely amazing woman, and her husband, Jose, needs to sign the form, but he's going to be joining Lexit soon. But absolutely wonderful person, does a lot of admin work, I'm so appreciative to her. Sylvie, thank you very much for joining. Another trooper for us. I mean, she is everywhere. I mean, if you guys follow her on Instagram, she's in Sacramento. She's in Rancho Mirage or what? Some crazy city way out there in Riverside County. But Yadi, another warrior right here. She is at every single school board meeting in Ontario Montclair District. A straight warrior. And I got to give thanks to my wife, who's been supportive. Ingrid, thank you so much. And then, of course, my partner, Carrie. It's just been a wonderful ride, and I thank the Lord for all the blessings that He's given us and what this movement really means. Like I said, we are not Republicans, we're conservatives. And we're just doing our best to wake up the Latinos in this general area. You guys do not have to vote Democrat just because they say your skin color is brown. Use your brain, use your common sense, and realize that if you vote based on your godly morals, you'll realize that the Democrat Party is leading you down the wrong direction. So, last but not least, Latinos don't have to be Democrats. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Hey, Danny. God bless you guys.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you. All right, so I want to introduce someone else to you, Tajan Chun. You've seen him here if you were here last time. Tajan is a teacher from, or was a teacher in Hemet Unified. He still kind of is, but he was put on administrative leave back in January because he refused to follow the COVID guidelines that the district was implementing. But I've asked Tajan to give us a 90-second flyover of some of the assembly bills that are happening right now in Sacramento.
Thank you, Chris. So I know that there's a lot coming at us, right? Especially during this election season. But we cannot take our eye off the ball because what the Democrats have done is they've put in so many bills and laws and mandates and nonsense that it makes anybody's head spin. So I just want to focus on 5. The first one that many of you probably heard of is AB 2223. I just found out that the California Department of Health has defined what the perinatal period is going to be. 60 days after birth. 60 days. That's correct. 60 days after birth. Next one is SB 1479. This would require COVID-19 testing and tracking for all staff, teachers, and pupils that are under the jurisdiction of the state or county educational department. Lo and behold, do not forget the fact that private schools have to get their license from the county and state, which means if this bill is passed, they can force private schools to do the same thing. Next one is AB 1797, which make changes to the California Immunization Record Database, basically allowing the government to take your medical records, your children's medical records, and there's going to be no more medical privacy. Next one is AB 2098. This bill would require or designate basically any frontline doctors or any doctors that try to tell the truth about COVID as spreading misinformation and go after their license. Okay, we'll make them criminals. And then the last one is SB 866. This is my favorite one. SB 866 allows children 12 years or older to decide for themselves on whether to get vaccinated or not. Now, can you imagine a 12-year-old sitting in a room with a nurse being pressured to take the vaccine? They decide, they finally give in and say, fine, I'll take it, and without the parents' knowledge or knowing, but it gets worse than that. They've changed the definition of a vaccine, okay? So they can look at a little boy or a little girl and say, hey, you're gay. So we're going to give you, since you struggle with that, we're going to give you a transgender therapy vaccine, and you get to take it without letting your parents know. This will be up on the Freedom Coalition Facebook page. Please call your assembly members and your senators. Remember, every assembly member is up for re-election. Call them, write them, friends and family in different parts of California. get them to call in right. We got to stop this nonsense. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tajan. Crystal? So I want to introduce you, if you don't already know, this is Crystal Ruiz. Crystal is the mayor of San Jacinto. I follow Crystal on Facebook, and I watched her trip across the country with the Freedom Truckers, and this woman is a fighter, I am telling you. So I've asked her to introduce our next guest, so I'm going to hand the microphone off to Crystal. Thank you, Crystal.
So before I do that, I am really excited to be here tonight, and let me tell you why. He was talking about that blue wave and that pressure and the fear that they instill in us, and if you're like me, you know there's only one place that fear comes from, and he doesn't belong here, right? But guess what? My God's parted the Red Sea. He can handle this wave. We just got to start praying more and getting our friends to vote. And I'm going to ask you, before I introduce one of my good friends, every single person up here, Ian Weeks, Jeff Hewitt, Mike Hestron, every single one of these people they're bringing in here, we've got to get into office. Chad Bianco, we've got to get him back into office. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to text 5 people and tell them you want them to vote for these people. Ask them to spread the word. We're going to take this state, and we can do that if you guys help me. Spread the word. Ask them to tell 5 people. Trust me. You can make a difference. You can do this, okay? Now, this man over here is County Supervisor Jeff Hewitt. Come here, Jeff. Jeff has been my friend since 2014. We ran against each other, didn't we? We did. He's one of the most honest people I know. He fights for our communities. I know that you guys don't know him for very long, but I've watched him in action. We're on RCA, which is Regional Conservation Authority. We're on Western Riverside Council of Governments together. He, let's see, what else? We're all over the place. You know, one of my favorite things is we just found the video of the Hutchinson report. If you guys have got to look it up. We were on that thing. We kicked some butt. And the reality is, I tie myself to good people, to people who are going to fight for us. I don't like the talkers. I don't know about you. I'm done talking. I want someone who's going to take action. And I've watched him on these boards. I've watched him outside of the boards and outside of the public. And he is an honorable man. He is one who's going to fight for us. Now, Chuck Washington used to be our supervisor. So your ballots are all going to say Jeff Hewitt, not Chuck Washington. So remember to mark Jeff Hewitt for your county supervisor because we desperately need him. He is absolutely the best candidate for the job, and I only back the winners. Jeff, it's all you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me in here, and thank you all for coming tonight. I am Jeff Hewitt. I am the 5th District County Supervisor right now, and I was elected in 2018 in quite an upset. Nobody knew who I was then. I came up and I took on an opponent that had a lot more money and took me for granted, and I won this seat. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me over the next few minutes, who I am and what I've done. So, my grandfather was born in Redlands in 1888, coincidentally about the same time that San Jacinto was incorporated, very old towns in this area. And, I've got a boatload of kids, 6, and I've got 11 grandkids. And I worked my tail off with my own business for most all my life to support those kids. Family's everything. I see so many of my good friends leaving this area and going to these other great states that have less taxes and less everything. I'm going to be buried here. I will never leave this because what I'm going to tell you, what I've done over the last couple of years, you're going to want to stay here and fight with me. I was elected to the city council of the little city of Calamasa right up here in the past. I think most of you know where that is. And the first term, it was pretty neat. Calamasa is this idyllic little town that doesn't have a lot of controversy, but about the first year of my second term, we had to face this question that a special interest was forcing us to spend a lot more money on our fire department that we didn't need. So instead of just raising taxes like everybody else does, I got my city council together, my city staff, and we formed our own in-house fire department that increased the staffing, increased the level of service, and saved about $1 million on a $6 million budget. That is unheard of. And besides that, we replaced them with sustainable, the defined contribution pensions that would last forever. Now, when I did that, all of my elected buddies said, Jeff, we like what you're doing, but you know, that's political suicide, going against the heroes. I wasn't going against the heroes. I was representing my constituents. So that's my mindset. I don't care who I'm going to go against. I don't care what special interest comes in and starts messing with my constituents. I'm going to fight to the death to defeat that. Now, coming in and getting elected as a county supervisor in 2018, well, guess what? We've got 23,000 employees. We're the largest employer of CalPERS in the state of any county. And we had a $3.6 billion unfunded liability. I'm going to go ahead and try to take on the thing that nobody else will because they keep kicking the can down the road. So our kids and our grandkids will have to pay that liability. Well, eventually we won't because some judge will step up. Maybe it'll be one of these four over here. But they'll say, we can't continue on with this generation paying the most taxes and having the least service. So I started out, I got a few things done right away. But then COVID came and took over for 2 years. 2 years. It started at January 29th when that plane from Wuhan, China landed on my district in March Air Reserve Base. It consumed us. But right away I could see something wasn't right. Because once the governor started shutting things down, putting perfectly good businesses out of business and keeping kids from going to school, I said, this isn't right. And so in March of 2020, I made the motion up on the dais that we should go against the governor's edicts and go our own way. I didn't get a second. But you know what? A lot of people came in and they started telling me about their businesses, several generations that were lost because the capricious nature of somebody that called himself a king. How dare you go against me? I'm going to keep my businesses that are politically connected to me in business, but we don't really care about you because somebody says you're too dangerous. And I heard all these business people come in. I heard all these single mothers with special need kids crying at the dais. And I heard it for 9 hours. And my colleagues hated me. They hated me. But to make it worse, they said, well, let's wait and see what the governor does. He's supposed to come up, this is on Tuesday, he's supposed to come up with a decision on Thursday whether to take away some of these restrictions. They said, well, let's just put it off till next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is going to be that many more businesses out of business. No, let's have a special meeting on Friday. And I put them through 7 hours more of people pleading. Their lives were becoming ruined. I have never felt such pain and empathy in all my life. And believe me, I've smashed my fingers and my head and everything else. I've dug thousands of swimming pools. And this was something that I couldn't get past. So I got together with some of the local electeds. We had a press conference. Chad Bianco came out with me, and we said, hey, and Channel 7 and a few others came out, but that wasn't going to cut it either. The governor was ignoring us. I started working real hard to see that churches were shut down, and there was another 412 church with Pastor Tim Thompson out of, let's hear it for Tim Thompson down in, and he says, we just want to have Easter Sunday with a drive-up service. And the county was saying, no, you can't. The governor says no. So I worked real hard. I convinced my colleagues, And I went down to that Easter service, and not only was it perfectly safe, but it was a beautiful Easter service, and we pulled that off. And we got it so that any church could have a drive-up service on any Sunday or their day of worship. I mean, that was a big, the religious freedom. We're begging to be able to drive up in our cars and get together and worship the Lord. Well, golf courses were shut down. I had to tell my colleagues, there's an 83-year-old man out in Sun Lakes who is got cancer. He's going to die in 4 months. All he wants to do is play golf for the rest of his 4 months. You're going to keep him from doing that? We got golf courses opened up, believe it or not. It takes... But then I realized that even with San Bernardino County suing the state, even with all these protests, we needed to do more. So I got together with a county supervisor up in Sacramento, Sue Frost. And in January 8th and 9th, we had 150 people. You'd be surprised how hard it was to get 150 people, more than half of them elected, all throughout California, water boards, city councils, at least 20 county supervisors from all over the state. And we got together for this 3-day conference because he can't shut us down. This is learning. No, you don't have that right. And we did it in a covered equestrian center 30 miles east of Sacramento. The Sacramento Bee was out there calling us all these terrible names. All the local media was out there trying to make fun of us. I moderated a medical board with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, one of the co-authors of the Great Barrington Declaration. Joe Ladapo, who is now the Surgeon General for DeSantis in Florida. But my favorite, Dr. Fareed, who was out there in Imperial County saving lives over and over, saying, I don't care what you tell me about my therapeutic cocktail. We're saving lives. We had a panel with constitutional sheriffs. Sheriff Jones of Sacramento County, Sheriff Bianco. We had economists. And the next day, Governor Newsom, he raised the stay-at-home orders for the 13 counties around Sacramento. That's what I will do for my constituents. A week later, all of the counties had it raised. But that's not enough. Because when we came back and those vaccines were out now for 2 or 3 months, I asked my county public health director, are we getting our fair share? Just wanted to know. She came back and says, no, we're getting about 60% of what the counties around us are getting. What? There were so many aged people that wanted that vaccine. I've never been for a mandate. That's a personal choice for you to do. And the fact that President Bush did Operation Warp Speed and had them do something that they usually do in 10 years, that's for people to have that choice to make for themselves. And that demand was so great in our county, and somehow this guy was shorting us? No, we went back there and said, no, we get our fair share. And not only that, the county was giving those vaccines to younger occupations that had no more danger of getting ill than anybody else in that age group. So I changed our priorities to go to people over 85 and above, 75 to 85, 65. 75% of all the people that died from COVID in Riverside County are over 65 years old. We make up 16% of the population. So these are things that I did, and I feel very, very proud. And now that COVID is behind us, they won't let it be behind us, but it's behind us, and we will survive through this. We've got a lot of things to do with 109 and 47 and 57 and all these other ones, and we just mentioned there's a new AB 866. It might as well be AB 666 because it is so evil. I'm going to tell you, we need to work together. I'll tell you what, I've been fighting this governor for 2 years. And I need all of you to help me fight for all of our liberty. Because what he pointed out up here, Chris, Riverside County is a special place. And I have been so honored to represent all of you. Because the 5th District, yeah, that's who votes for me. But I make policy for all 2.5 million. And I've been so honored to do that. And I look forward to getting your support, getting out there, going on my website at votehewitt.com. And outside, we've actually got signs out there. I'd love to have them in your yards. And let me tell you, we've just gotten started. Thank you so much. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for getting to know who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. God bless you. All right, I would like to ask Mike Hestron to join me here on the stage. Mike, would you join us? Mike is our district attorney, and he is, welcome, Mike. Thank you for coming today. You know what we're going to do? We're going to pull these chairs forward, Mike. Okay. So, because we're in the shade back here, so why don't we pull ourselves out of the shade and into the light, huh? But thank you for coming today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
The last time you were here was back in November, and things were a little different then for you. You're now in the heat of a pretty, I would call it, a heavy weighted campaign. In fact, I'm a registered conservative. You can guess what my party is, and I'm getting text messages, Mike, from your opponent. How did that guy get my phone number? I mean, what's going on there?
You want to know?
Sure, yeah.
When you register to vote, you put your number on there.
And then he took it, huh?
Then the registrar puts it out.
Okay, even though he's a different party affiliate than me? Okay. Well, isn't that just nice of them, huh? Yeah. Are you getting those same text messages?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Oh, boy. I do want to bring up some of your colleagues here, and I want to give plenty of time for that. But I want to just take a minute and let you sort of speak to your campaign and let everybody know sort of where things are at. How are things shaping up? I mean, where's the biggest fight that you're seeing for yourself? And I have another question for you too. Sure. This is unrelated to that because this was a big concern of yours when we were here before, and that is the crisis we're seeing with fentanyl. Yeah. So I'd like for you to give us a little update on that because that's something that I've been praying about and thinking about quite a bit since we met. But let's start with your campaign, and then you can kind of answer that, and then we're going to bring everyone else up. Okay?
Sure. Could I just make a comment about the folks here from Lexit?
Yeah.
So, let me just tell you, when Latinos figure out that they're conservatives, then everything collapses for the Democrats. And so what they're doing is so important. And many of you may not know, my mother came here from Mexico. My family is, I'm half Mexican, but they came and worked the fields a generation ago. And I'm proud of their work, and I'm proud of what you guys are doing. Que Dios les bendiga. So my campaign is going really well. I've got broad support. I've got 2 opponents. Both of my opponents are coming at me from the far left. They're progressives. One of them is a local defense attorney. One of them is a judge, but he came from San Francisco and then down here, and he's a progressive. And they're in the model. They want to be these progressive DAs. You've all heard of these progressive DAs. So I made a statement in my. I was recently endorsed by the Desert Sun, and they endorsed me, and then sort of said all the reasons why they had reservations. And one of the things they said they had reservations is because I told them in my endorsement interview that the experiment of the progressive prosecutor has been an absolute disaster. And it has. You look all around in places like Los Angeles where they have a progressive prosecutor and crime is out of control. In the last 2 years, under their DA over there, George Gascon, who's supported by Soros, the murder rate, the homicide rate in Los Angeles has gone up in the 2 years, 94%. We've never seen numbers like that. In the same 2 years, Riverside, our murder rate has gone down 16%. So, that's because of the policies we have here. So my campaign, we're getting the word out. It's going strong. I've raised over $1 million. I'm going to plan to win this thing in June. Yeah. So if people, I've got a family, I've got a great wife and kids, and I want to spend some time with them in late June. So
Good
you all need to vote.
Good for you. Well, and so the text I got had a link, right? I clicked on that link. It came from your judge friend, and so I went through his website, and lo and behold, he's got a big endorsement from our favorite person, Gavin Newsom, and as well as all of these other organizations that we all love and support, like Planned Parenthood, all of the unions locally and statewide. So anyways, you get a clear picture of where he's coming from and sort of what his ideology is, and it gives us a reason to support you and to fight this fight,
If I can comment, the text message that one of my opponents sent out, he sent it out to Republicans, and he basically said, we got to get rid of Hestron. Let's not let Riverside become San Francisco and L.A. So you see how deceitful it is, right? So.
Well, if he gets in, guess what we're going to become, you guys, right? I mean, that's the obvious, right? So we've got to support you, Mike, and get you back in. So everybody here, if you haven't registered to vote, just a side note, there's an opportunity for you to do that today. Make sure you get out there and fill out that paperwork if you haven't registered. If you have, make sure you vote, okay? It's very important. And get some friends to vote with you. Let's talk about fentanyl just real quick because, listen, it's an issue, and I'm assuming it's a continuing issue. It's something that you're continuing to see. Just a brief flyover. Where are we at since we talked last? What's the latest?
So if you've probably heard, our county has been a leader in the fight against fentanyl, and I've taken a hard stand against it. And the reason is because fentanyl is so lethal that it's killing our young people. And about 2 years ago, I had a parent come to my office, and he told me the circumstances of what happened to his daughter, Alexandra. And she was home from school, from college, visiting, and she did something she shouldn't have done, but she got online and she got what she thought was a oxycodone pill, and because it would help her sleep. And so she took one of these pills. But unbeknownst to her, the pill was a counterfeit pill made of fentanyl, and it cost her life. And so this father, grieving father, who is just, his life has been turned upside down. But he came to me and he told me all this, and he said, we can prove that the person who gave her the pill knew it was fentanyl, knew it was dangerous, and he did it anyway. And he asked me a question. He said, why isn't that murder? And I said to him, it's a good question, and I'm going to look into it. And so I got together with Chad Bianco, and out of that came a task force that the sheriff created. And from that day forward, we started investigating these cases as potential murders. And since that time, my office has filed 15 homicide cases against fentanyl dealers in this county. Then on top of that, we're really trying to get the word out. So we've got people going into the schools, and we've partnered with the county to do a public information campaign to make sure that young people understand the days of casual experimentation with drugs. Those days are over, but society just doesn't know it yet, because fentanyl is mixed with all illicit street drugs. There's no safe way to experiment with drugs anymore for our young people. They need to know that. 40% of the counterfeit pills out there contain a lethal amount of fentanyl. That's like playing Russian roulette. So we cannot let our young people continue to believe that, hey, it's okay to try drugs, all young people do it. They might have in the 60s, but in today's environment and what's happened with fentanyl, we've got to get the word out that those days are over.
So you may not know the answer to this, Mike, but where's the fentanyl coming from?
I do know.
Yeah.
The vast majority is manufactured in China, and then it's imported over usually to Mexico or other places south of the border, and it's coming across the southern border. In fact, it's pouring across our porous southern border. And so, a lot of what you hear about in terms of the southern border is now controlled by cartels. And the problem with that is that, of course, they're taking advantage of of people because they traffic in human beings, but they're also trafficking in fentanyl, and it's killing our communities. And I have no tolerance for people peddling poison in our communities, killing innocent people in our communities. You know, we've got to take a hard line and say we're not going to do that here. We're not going to allow it here. And I understand, you know, we're not going to, with a few cases, not going to make the problem go away. I'm not naive, but I'm also not going to buy into just the permissive attitude about it. We're going to take a hard line.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for taking some time to share that. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that with this group because some of you weren't here in that meeting, and I think you need to hear the importance of being aware of this drug that's out there. You need to be communicating with your children, your grandchildren, everybody you know. Because we had another guest here, Mark McDonald from down in LA. He's a psychiatrist, and he talked about fentanyl. He had a client himself that overdosed on fentanyl. Same scenario that you just described, exactly the same. And it's an epidemic that's happening everywhere. So we just need to be aware and be putting that word out to protect our own children and grandchildren. All right, so I want to invite up our other guests. We have 4 other guests that I'm so excited that are here. These are all deputy district attorneys. They work for you, Mike, right? You're the boss.
Yes.
So Mike's going to be filling out an evaluation after the night.
So I always kind of joke with them, you know, when we're out here, I'm not really their boss. They're independent candidates.
Yeah,
but yes,
good.
I'm their boss.
Yeah, good. I'm just teasing, but you know what I mean. So it's fun to have them. In fact, I asked Christy, I said, hey, what do you think about getting Mike here when you guys are here? And she said, let me message him. So she got in touch with you, and you were like, yeah, absolutely, I'll come out. And so I think it was important for you to be here, Mike, just to show that you support these 4. So thank you for doing that. And I want to bring them up. So Christy Kirk, she's a deputy district attorney. Jason Stone, also a deputy district attorney here in our county. Natalie Lowe, she's also a deputy district attorney. And Jay Keel, he is also one of our deputy district attorneys. I'm going to pull these chairs forward, you guys, so we can get everybody into the light here, okay? We don't want you sitting in the shadows. Thank you. Perfect. Well, welcome. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for coming. This is a first for me, you guys. I'm doing a lot of firsts here, you know? I'm here on stage with 5 attorneys. Now's the time to confess, I guess. Or not, you know. I mean, I don't know. I need to be real careful what I say here. But I've got a couple pages of accolades that I pulled off the internet. I'm going to skip that because we don't have enough time to go through all that. But I do want to say this, that everyone you see on the stage here is accomplished in their field. They have a lot of experience and varied experience within our county. They're serving in different places, and we may have an opportunity to get into that a little bit here as we talk. But I just want to say welcome and thank you. And I want to start off with a question, and we're going to do this just sort of family style, all right? You can answer however you want. Anybody can answer. You all can answer. But I talked with Christy. Christy is the one that sort of I talked with first and got in touch with me. And so I have a question for you guys, and Christy, you can answer this if you want. But and actually, I'd like to hear from all of you. But why are you running for a judicial seat, number one? And then the second part of that question is why are you running together as a unit?
So I've been a prosecutor for 17 years, and I've always been known as a highly aggressive prosecutor who fights for our victims in the courtroom, but does it at the highest ethical standard. And over time, probably within the last 7 to 5 years, what used to be our job in telling the court what the sentence should be and what the penal code says it is has been stripped from us and from our district attorney, and that has been given to the bench. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but when you have a certain type of legislature in this state and a governor who's responsible for appointing judges, you can see how that's going to affect our communities and our crime victims. And over time, people who should have been sentenced to significant time were getting less and less time. And there became a lack of courage in the bench. And we are here to bring that balance back and to bring courage back to the bench in Riverside County.
Awesome. So you guys all know each other, and you guys have decided to run together. So does somebody want to sort of speak to that a little bit? Like, what's the strategy? What are your thoughts about that? Because that, from my perspective, that's unique.
So
Yeah.
You all will get to vote for all 4 of us. This is a county-wide election. And there's really nothing, the biggest thing I think we've all heard is that nobody has ever heard of the judges. Mm-hmm. They don't know who to vote for. And so when we all decided to run, we decided to run together so we could reach as many people in this county and be as strong as we could under this district attorney and under Chad Bianco. And so we have been able to pool our resources. We cover different events because this is all name recognition. But we want people to know who we are and what we stand for.
Yeah, and I appreciate that a lot, by the way, because I've voted over the years in the midterms and in the primaries, and so it's been one of those challenges for me, just as an average voter out there, to figure out who these people are outside of just and one of the great challenges for judges, by the way, you guys may know this, but they can't indicate party affiliation. So even when we get to the ballots, it's very hard to filter through who the candidates are and what they stand for, et cetera, because they're not allowed to speak to their party affiliation. Do you guys want to educate everybody really quick? Does somebody want to do that real quick on that particular point?
Sure. So one of the main things that judges have to do is they have to be impartial, neutral arbiters of cases. And what the concern is that if you have a judge who says, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, they're always going to be biased. They're going to not be able to judge fairly. And so the Judicial Ethics Commission has put out special rules for judges when they campaign and when they become bench officers. And unlike other seats, when you decide to run for judge, you actually have to take an ethics course put out by the California Supreme Court on what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And so the whole purpose of these rules is to maintain the appearance of impropriety and neutrality so that whoever comes before us will get a fair shake, that we're not going to be predisposed to ruling for or against anybody just because of party affiliation. And so that's why they put these rules in place for us.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Did you guys know all that? No, right? I mean, isn't this good? We're all smart people, but, we live our lives and nobody's educated in these things. And we get to the ballot and we're like, oh man, now what? What do we do here? Who says what about this person? And so we're scrambling to figure all that out. So we appreciate you being here. I want to ask you a question, and I'll preface it with just a short little statement here. 250 years ago, scientists said that knowledge on planet Earth was doubling every 100 years. So around the time of the forming of our nation, knowledge on planet Earth was doubling every 100 years. Around the time of World War II and just after that, that increased. Knowledge on planet Earth, cumulative knowledge, was doubling every 10 years. With the introduction of the microchip and the personal computer around 1970, 80-ish, knowledge started doubling every year. Okay? Cumulative knowledge on planet Earth. Come to where we're at today, 2022. Okay? Cumulative knowledge on planet Earth, scientists are now estimating it's doubling every 8 minutes. Okay? We are living in an information age. Okay? There's no doubt. As I didn't share this with all of you guys, but I worked as a school psychologist for a number of years before I became a pastor. When I was working in the field of education, I was surrounded by people who had graduate degrees and postgraduate degrees. In fact, I never imagined in my life that I would be rubbing shoulders with so many people who had doctoral degrees as what I was doing in the world of education. And so I began to realize that there were a lot of people with a lot of knowledge. And then I started to realize that there was another component to what I was seeing and experiencing, that there was a lot of people with a lot of knowledge, but there was few people with wisdom. And that there is a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. And when I think about a judge, I think about someone who needs to possess wisdom. And I think we're living in a world today where wisdom is far and few between and hard to find. I'll give you an example, okay? Our nation just voted in a new Supreme Court justice, Justice Jackson. Justice Jackson was asked in her hearing if she could give a definition for the word woman. And as she was asked to give a definition for the word woman, her response was, I am not a biologist. I am not equipped to give you a definition for the word woman. So I want to pose that same question to the four of you. Can you define the word woman?
Can we or should we?
I'm asking you in front of this group to define that word woman.
Sure. Obviously, people are born with different genders, different biological indicators, and some people are born with multiple genetic indicators of what their gender is, what their biology is. I think for us, it's important to recognize that everybody is unique. The law protects everybody. The Constitution of our state and our country protects everybody. Obviously, we deal in our county with all kinds of people of all different beliefs, of all different biological and genetic makeup. And for us, it's important to remember that no matter who it is, whoever comes into our court, they'll be given the utmost respect, and they will be treated as an individual, whatever they are, however they identify themselves.
Good. That's a very good attorney kind of an answer. Right? Yeah, nice. This guy's been around the block. Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to take a stab at that? Anybody? Anybody have the courage to answer the question, what is a woman?
I will.
We'll let Mike answer here in a second.
I mean, I'm a woman. I don't know how more basic it gets.
Perfect. Well, what do you say, Mike? Does somebody? Oh, you got a mic.
It's a human female. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think maybe they can't say it, but the law has to be based in common sense. It's not the law's got to work for the average citizen, and so when the average citizen comes into a courtroom, the law's got to be understandable to them, and it should coincide with people's normal experience in life, right? So that's what a woman is. It's a human female.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a good answer, Mike. So let me get back to this idea of wisdom, you guys. What is your source of wisdom?
I'll jump in on this.
Yeah.
I think wisdom. Try that one. Wisdom comes from your life experience. It's not something that you're going to learn in a classroom. It's not something you're going to read in a book. It's something that you have to experience. You have to get out and experience life. I was born and raised in Baltimore on the East Coast, and I basically grew up in a household with a single mother who worked at a car rental dealership. So I got to experience that life where we didn't have a lot of money. And so, but you always stressed, my whole family stressed education throughout my life, and they sacrificed everything so that I could have an education. And I continued my education and went to law school. But having that life experience of knowing what it's like to not have, but then to work so hard to protect other people and to always want to give back to public service, I think that's where your wisdom comes from. I think it's life experience.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
I think some of the best sources of wisdom is your mistakes and learning from them and having accountability for them, admitting when you're wrong, looking back and reflecting what you could do better, and growing every day from that.
For me, without a doubt, the upbringing I've had, being from a small community, I was in Temecula before there was a McDonald's, and you see it grow now to what it is, and it's a great place. But the upbringing I had with service being a huge part of how my parents raised me, of getting involved with the community, of spending our holidays, providing meals to the less fortunate. All of those life experiences have contributed to who I am and who we all are. For me, a huge change in my life was about 7 years ago when my daughter was diagnosed with autism. And I thought I knew a whole lot about life. But what I learned is that all of our best laid plans go out the window once you get that diagnosis and you start to learn different things and you start to experience them for yourself. And so one of the things that as an office we've been fortunate to do is participate in mental health courts and veterans courts, things like that. And those are newer developments in Riverside County. And so when we started out, you think the law is kind of black and white, and here's your crime, here's your punishment. And then as you grow and as you mature, you become more aware of the circumstances that lead people to where they are and why they're committing certain crimes. That wisdom from experience allows us to better adjudicate what the appropriate punishments are going to be. We've had a great leader who's taught us those types of things and has given us the tools and the wherewithal to treat each case as its own case and to determine the best outcome for community safety.
As Christy started to speak, it was exactly what was actually forming in my mind, which was the amount of mistakes I've made and having to walk through that and learn through it and hold yourself accountable and just checking your ego at the door. I mean, I am grateful enough to work in the appellate unit of the district attorney's office. And so basically what I tell people is I've watched judges step in it for the last 10 years. What an appellate attorney does is we look at post-conviction work primarily, and then under Mike Hestron, and while I cannot officially endorse him, I can tell you that he has allowed us to be aggressive in challenging laws, et cetera. And having seen judges make bad calls, most of the bad calls, in my experience, come from ego and not admitting when you don't know something, not taking the admit to admit you're wrong, and not taking a moment to either ask someone who might know or willing to learn. And so when you have that perspective and you see people get it wrong repeatedly, not because they're not bright people, not because they don't have the legal experience, but simply their ego will not let them, I feel like I believe that I know what I don't know, and I will be able to have the wisdom to hopefully figure it out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So let's go into another subject here. And I promised Christy that I wouldn't ask you guys your opinions on specific laws or legislation. They're not allowed to answer, by the way, those questions. So, but nevertheless, we are living in some very challenging times right now. We're watching as just a people. We turn on the news and we're seeing protests and riots around our country, protests in front of Supreme Court justices' homes. Their addresses have been published on social media. They have become targets by certain political organizations. And it's all because of and I don't know all the laws behind this as far as the Supreme Court goes, but it is an unprecedented leak that has just happened in the Supreme Court where Justice Alito's opinion, his 98-page opinion, was leaked out before the public hearing took place, which, by the way, has never happened in the history of the Supreme Court, where an entire justice's opinion has been published before the public hearing. And so I don't know if there's legal ramifications for that or not, but I would hope so, and I hope they find who that leaker is, and they prosecute them. But you guys are seeking a position as a judge that is challenging on multiple levels. There is a word that's being populated out there in the general public as in relationship to judges, and it's attached to this word activism or activist. And we hear this constantly about activist judges. And what an activist judge is, from my layman's perspective, is a judge who sides with a particular political party or ideology and promotes that party or ideology through the decision-making on the bench. And so we are witnessing that as a public and as a population before our very eyes. So I think on behalf of everyone here, we want to know, and I don't know what freedoms you have to answer these questions in this situation, but we want to know where you stand in relationship to activist judges or activism on the bench, okay? Well, let's put it that way. We're not going to name any individuals, but activism on the bench. And how are you, and let me explain more this way. Are you prepared for the challenges ahead, and have you had conversations with your family and loved ones? Because I was thinking about this as I was formulating these thoughts and questions for you. You may end up with a case that comes across your bench that is highly controversial. In fact, the odds of that happening in our world today are very high. And you're going to be challenged to make a decision that may not be popular. Anyways, you guys can respond to that. That's kind of a question statement, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on those.
Absolutely, and in fact, I'm stealing a line here from my boss, which is, judges enforce the law as it is written, not as you wish it were written. And in fact, in my candidate statement, you'll see I wrote, I will enforce the law, not create it. And that includes enforcing the death penalty if it's appropriate. And a lot of judges may or may not. I know, for example, it made national news, the Orange County judge a few years back who refused to give that child rapist the sentence that is prescribed by law and instead gave 3 years, and there was a huge recall. We can't have that happen. Even if you disagree with the law, you're not a legislature. That is not the office we're running for. We are running to enforce the law that is enacted by the people you elect to do that. That is not our job.
I couldn't agree more. Our job is to follow the law, follow the Constitution of the United States, follow the Constitution of the state of California, and the laws that are there. Not to come in with a bias against law enforcement, not to come in with an attitude of favoring defendants and giving them second chances all the time when they may or may not deserve it. Each case has to be decided on its own merits, and every litigant and party involved needs to be able to leave the courtroom with the idea that they had a meaningful opportunity to be heard. Whether they win or lose, that they had the opportunity to have their grievance addressed in court and decided by someone who has the knowledge and wisdom to render a fair and just decision.
I think the reason that we all are running is to fight what we're facing right now. I think that if you look, so we're not allowed to say what party we're affiliated with. But if you go to the governor's website, when he appoints judges, he certainly lets you know what political party they're affiliated with. And I would challenge you to go on there and see if there's a certain party that's listed. Okay? So when you have that type of skew in what is supposed to be a balanced bench, you create an activism bench. I think all four of us are looking ahead, and when we get elected in June, looking ahead in 6 years, prepared to fight this fight again if somebody challenges us, because we're going to have courage. We're going to follow the law. We're going to make sure that everybody gets their voice in court. But I also let you know that we're going to hold people accountable. And public safety does not come down to a party line. We should all be concerned with public safety.
I believe in the Constitution, the originalism of the Constitution, the way that our forefathers wrote the Constitution and their intentions. I don't believe in what is known as the living Constitution, where people go and try to change the Constitution to conform with today's society. We have to stick with what our forefathers, and as a judge, I think that's one of the most important things, is that when we have these laws, we need to apply them to the Constitution and make sure they uphold muster. So that's how handling these tough situations, you have to stick to your guns, you have to stick to what you believe in, no matter what the outcome may be.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that was a great answer, you guys. I appreciate your honesty there. Was that question okay, Christy? That was a good question. So I do want to sort of wrap things up a little bit here. We're going to end on time. We've got 8 minutes, and so I want to give you guys just a chance to have some final responses. And I appreciate the statement about the Constitution, because I know that's a question for a lot of people here. Where does that stand? And in fact, let me piggyback on that, because there are multiple constitutions. We have a Constitution of the United States. We have a California Constitution. We also have rules and laws that the counties themselves establish. What happens and how do you navigate those waters when those particular constitutions are in conflict with each other. Does somebody want to answer that?
Yes, so the United States Constitution is first and foremost. It has to be, right? And so thankfully, again, because of where I work, and again, not an official endorsement, but I have been able to challenge laws that may not be the politically popular thing to do, but it's the right thing to do because they're poorly drafted and conflict with the constitutions we have. For example, I am currently challenging, everyone familiar with juvenile realignment? No? Everyone heard about this? Everybody heard about regular realignment, right? Where all of a sudden, people who were in prison are now serving local time, right? They did the same thing to juveniles. So what they did do is they required registration for sex crimes that juveniles commit. And when I say juveniles, I mean 17-year-olds who are almost 18, right? They did the same thing. So now they're serving all of their time, even regardless of the crime they commit, in local time. But their sex offender registration is contingent on them going to state prison that no longer exists for them, right? So there's a case that I litigated that is currently pending where he was 17 but 1 month from being 18, and he raped his 7-year-old cousin, both vaginally and anally. And he's not allowed to register as a sex offender because we can't send him to prison. But because of where I work, we are able to challenge that and one of the reasons we challenged it was constitutional grounds. Because this is, guess what? Guess who still have to register? People who live out of state and come here. So we have been able to focus on constitutional challenges, statutory construction arguments, and aggressively argue that this is not appropriate regardless of how the law is written. This is not in compliance with our Constitution.
Awesome. I see you nodding your head, Mike.
Yeah, these are great. These are great prosecutors that work in my office, and I'll tell you, I hate to lose them. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for me. But they're right. We need a great bench, and we need a solid people to be judges, and so we're willing to take the hit and to have them go to the bench. I support them and have endorsed all 4 of them wholeheartedly.
Awesome. We've got just a couple minutes. I want one or however many of you guys want to speak to your opponents. Do you guys want to sort of let everybody know who's running against you, who they should not vote for? Okay, and we'll end with that. Okay, so does somebody want to sort of take that?
I can start. We'll just kind of go down the line. My opponent is Laura Garcia. She used to be a public defender. She recently became a court commissioner in, I think it was February of this year. I learned today that she was just endorsed by the Democratic Party. So that gives you some kind of indication of where we are. But before I let it go, I just want to say one comment to Lexit, is that you ruined it for me. I thought I had the unicorn. My wife is Latino, and she's conservative, and I thought I had the only one.
So I have 2 opponents. One of them is a criminal defense attorney from Riverside, Southwest area that brags about being a fantastic criminal defense attorney. I'm also running against another deputy district attorney who just was endorsed by the Democratic Party and is running on a very liberal platform and has the same campaign consultants that are running Mr. Lujan against our sheriff. So those are my 2 opponents.
My opponent is a court commissioner. He is a former vet, and I give him service for that, and I commend him on that. But what he's declining to share with everybody is that his main career was being a public defender. And in fact, I'm honored to not only have the support of Mike Hestron, as well as Sheriff Bianco and numerous law enforcement agencies, but also the Riverside County Public Defender has endorsed me over the former public defender. And all of the indigent defense panel leaders around the county, from the desert to Southwest and Riverside, have endorsed me over the former public defender, showing my integrity, fairness, and agreeable disposition for all people to come in. I don't want to name names or anything like that and give you the idea, but just remember to vote for Jason Stone in seat 26.
So like Christy, I have two opponents. We were in a 3-person race as well. So Jason and Jay are in 2-person races, and Christy and I have 2 opponents. So we're in 3-person races. And like Christy, I am also running against another deputy district attorney. She is not endorsed by any party, but she has taken money from Democratic candidates. I believe she received a large donation from Jose Medina, just to let you know where she stands. And then my other opponent was just endorsed by the Democratic Party as well. So that's where they stand. And one of the reasons we chose to run together, so you know, is not only are we endorsed collectively by Hester and Chad Bianco, but we're also the only DA candidates who were endorsed by our fellow DAs. And we're also the only DA candidates who were endorsed by the Riverside Sheriff's Association. So that should tell you who we are and why you should vote for us. And again, I'm Natalie Lowe, seat number 4.
So just so you know, you have an opportunity to vote for all 4 of them, okay? There's no districts that they're actually assigned to as far as a voting block goes. It's countywide. And so you have an opportunity to vote for all 4 of them, and I want to encourage you to do just that. And make sure you vote for Mike, okay? We want to get Mike in there and keep him in there, all right? But I want to thank you guys for coming today. I'm going to let you guys exit the stage and get outside so these people can shake your hands and meet you on their way out. Is that okay? Okay. Well, anyway, God bless you guys.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, God bless you. Yeah. Don't leave yet. Don't leave, okay? Hey, thank you guys. Oh, thank you, Christy. Okay. So there's a gentleman by the name of Ralph Reed. Ralph Reed was an author and a political strategist, and he came up with a quote. Here, I'm going to actually read it so I don't get it wrong. He came up with a quote, and he said this. He says, "I would rather have 1,000 school board members than 1 president and no school board member." Listen, let me repeat that again. He says, as he's looking at the political landscape, he says, "I would rather have 1,000 school board members than 1 president of the United States." And here's the reason why Ralph Reed said that. He said that because when you impact and change your area, and if every area does the same, you impact and change a nation. And so we need to stay focused on our area. This is our home. This is our town. This is our county. We're going to focus on this place. We're going to take it back from the left. We're going to own it. We're going to promote our ideas. We're going to promote freedom. We're going to do all of those things, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it wholeheartedly, and we're going to do it in force. And so it's important for you to get out, register to vote, talk to your neighbors, register them to vote, and make sure you vote in this primary election, all right? I want to just thank you all for coming tonight. This has been so fun. God bless you. Make sure you stop by the tables on the way out. Have a great night, okay?